The Source.
It's an interesting morning because we've had 3 singers in the studio, and that's because we're getting close to Christmas, and it's kind of, we like to do fun things this time of year, and it is fun to have people coming in singing live. We have on the phone a lady who also has made a name for herself in the music world, and now she's written a book. Her name is Lisa A. Sniderman. She's also known as, let me see if I can say this, Aoede? Aoede the...
Yes.
Aoede, the singer. Aoede, the Muse of Song. There it is. I'm so sorry. Okay, she is a singer, very talented, an award-winning songwriter. Her Do You Believe in Magic was her 3rd award-winning fantasy musical for young adults. As an artist, she has lived with a chronic illness for more than 10 years. Well, I wouldn't say as an artist. I read that wrong. But anyway, so she had something I can't pronounce called dermatomyositis. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. So that changed all of her plans. Everything changed when that started happening to her.
Yeah.
Her book is called A Light in the Darkness, Transcending Chronic Illness Through the Power of Art and Attitude. Lisa Sniderman, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning.
Good morning, and it's an honor to be there. Thanks.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
San Francisco Bay Area, California.
Oh, okay. So did you grow up in California?
For about 15, 16 years. So I would say yes, but I was raised in Michigan and then spent some time in Arizona.
Oh, okay. So did you find yourself in California chasing your dreams, or was there a different reason you ended up out there?
Yes, family. When, I was young. So 6th grade.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell me about the early parts of your life. The part, not real early, but the part where you started making a name for yourself as you were a folk singer, right?
Yeah, folk pop. So if I could actually rewind a little bit before that. So I actually have been battling for about 10 years what I'm calling a progressive muscle weakness disease, and it's called dermatomyositis.
Thank you.
And that's okay. You can't pronounce it because nobody can. And so really I've been dealing with the challenges of managing this since about April 2008. So picture yourself. It's 6 weeks before you're getting married. You're about to go on tour to promote your first full album, and you're working full-time. And imagine you get a skin rash, and you go to a dermatologist thinking he's going to give you some topical cream, and instead he tells you have a rare unpronounceable disease and refers you to a rheumatologist, and you're 35 years old. So for me, that was the onset, in about 2008, and the worst of it was a flare in 2010 when I was hospitalized for about a month with complete muscle weakness.
Oh, my gosh.
And then confined to a wheelchair and forced to undergo rehab to learn the basics, such as how to sit, stand, walk, and then eventually how to play and sing.
Wow. So your musical talents were compromised by the disease.
Exactly. So I was both an environmental scientist and a singer-songwriter when I was diagnosed in 2008. And because of that, I was forced to basically quit everything, and start over.
Wow. And so where did you begin, and where did starting over take you? Did it bring you back to music, or did you stick with the science part of your brain?
It took me to music. When I could no longer work full-time, my day job, even though that was still my passion, I was working actually for helping protect coastal water quality in California. And so, my brain was doing a lot of work. And when I could no longer affect change, I had to really kind of do some soul searching, and I really was drawn to music. But the clear answer that I was drawn to music is that after I was in the hospital, you know, almost from the time I got out of the hospital, I really obsessively turned to music and art. And really it was an expressive, you know, and a healing path for me. But what I didn't realize is that my story and my purpose is also becoming a light in the darkness and helping others.
Is that right? Okay.
Especially,
Yeah, explain that. I mean, is the book actually reaching out to people who benefit from hearing your story?
Exactly. So even though the inspiration for me is my own illness, dermatomyositis, and that I turn to my creativity, I wrote it in order to speak to and inspire those living with chronic illness, disability, and unexpected life challenges, especially for people who may find that when these unexpected events happen to them, it's very easy to drop your dreams. It's easy to, you know, lose hope and to despair, right? And to go into bouts of depression. So I am writing this, you know, for you if you seek strength, assistance, encouragement, inspiration, hope, right? If you're living with chronic illness or disability, but even those who aren't, what I've found is that it can give new inspiration because they read my story and they say, wow, if she can do it, I can do it.
It's very, very important to be a mentor to the young people today. You've opened up your arms and your heart to them to make sure that they do have the encouragement that that they need to pursue their original goals of music and art.
Yes, it's for me. Young people is one of the populations that I've been connecting with for years. You know, you mentioned that I do fantasy musicals. So I've written, you know, musicals intended for young adults. I've done original workshops for young adults. I'm even, you know, working with theater improv with populations of students with differing abilities. So I really like, you know, I definitely want to reach young people. But I also find that no matter what, you know, age you are, that these life events can happen. And what it's about is saying to yourself, what are some of the life lessons for living well with chronic illness? And I'm not here to say that this is easy. You know, I'm not here to say that you don't have those moments that where pain or, you know, what you're suffering from don't overcome you. And I'm also, you know, it's not that you can't feel or shouldn't feel those things. It's that for me, I don't dwell there, right?
Do you know what I see, Lisa? I see a common thread in the little bit that we know of you so far, and that common thread is the healer. I think the work that you did before you got sick, whether it was music or with the environmental side of your passions, I think what you've always tried. Tell me if I'm right. I'm just taking a stab at something here, and I'm not psychic. I'm just guessing. But it sounds like what you're saying is that you've always had the desire and the ability to see maybe a better way of doing something, to gently persuade us, for example, to be better stewards of the environment. That's one example. And maybe your talent with your music was a way of getting that message out. And now a different way of persuading us to deal with the things that are challenges for us, whether they're the form of disease or the form of some other kind of infirmity.
I love it. And in fact, my tagline, so to speak, when my elevator pitch, if I'm saying what I do is foster healing by giving your creative spirit wings and inspiring you to share your story. So what happened is when I was trying to decide how I wanted to share my story, I put out a call to artists, musicians, and authors from around the world because I realized I wanted to collaborate with other artists using creativity to heal. So I've been working with more than 50 artists that also use creativity and sharing their stories. And what happens is when I shared mine, it is an opening, I believe, you know, for others to share theirs, and that continues to promote healing, both of myself and then also them as they.
Did you have a caregiver with yours? Because these diseases don't just affect the person that has it; it also affects the caregiver and the life of the family.
Absolutely. What a great notice that you have. So I was able to kind of come up with some advice for dealing with couples. This is after the book, but this is definitely something that I've discovered in my journey. The caretaker needs to be able to be acknowledged, right? That's a hard role. They need, he or she needs to feel heard and understood and still have identity, right? Because both people are going to continue to have some roles in the relationship. And when those roles change, even if it means you can't do what you used to do together, it doesn't mean that, your partner shouldn't still pursue the things that they love. In my case, my husband, would still continue to go skiing or continue to do things, that brought him joy and made him, pursue his dreams.
Did he? Did he pull back from that for a while? I mean, did he think?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, he did.
Definitely. It's not like I get sick and he goes away. I don't mean that. But what I was trying to say is that in addition to the things we would do together to keep connecting, it was really like date nights or, different kinds of things to do to renew our spark. We still recognized that it was important for him to feel appreciation because he's doing so many sacrifices. And that, that's big. That's something that I would say the attitude side came into play a lot, right? I would acknowledge the appreciation, tell him I would appreciate him and recognize those sacrifices.
Oh, that is sweet. And is that in the book, or did you say those were the parts of your that happened after the book?
Some of that is in the book in the sense that I have a whole chapter dedicated to my husband and I call it, the chapter on my cheerleaders. That is so important. I have I have a chapter on mentors and on cheerleaders. And the cheerleaders are the people, you realize that you have to, for me, I don't do this alone. I learn to receive and nurture relationships. And I, embraced my support systems wherever I could find them, if they're family, friends, network. But then in addition, I also had mentors, that I could look to who might have been going through something, even if it wasn't my disease, that I could see how they were dealing with it attitude-wise.
Right.
And does spirituality have a place in this?
Spirituality definitely does. For me, I had to wrestle with what I believed, right? Both my faith, and I also have a strong belief in the universe, meaning, say, the power of attraction. And that I had to practice. So what happened is I went through various transformations. First, it's physical, when my body was no longer able to move. And then it's that spiritual side of saying, what is my identity? Who am I? And if I can't do the things I used to do, who do I become?
Yeah.
So it is all of it. Yeah.
The part of the conversation we're having right now, I wanted to say something earlier, but this is a better time to say it. If you were to imagine that everything has a purpose, and we're like the only creatures God made that doesn't know. It's like the aloe plant, maybe it doesn't know, but it heals people, and maybe it doesn't know it can do it. So there must have been a point in time when you realized that what you thought you wanted to do was on the right track, but not exactly what you were meant to do, and now you're doing what you were meant to do. Is it more fulfilling than maybe what you thought you could do when you were 17 or 20 or whatever?
Yeah, so the way I can answer that is to say in 2016, I had been living with DM for more than 8 years, and it hit me that I had not processed the illness. It's not that, like I said, I didn't feel those moments of those downtimes, but what I didn't do is allow myself to feel the loss of being hospitalized, not able to move, etc. And so instead, I really focused on my artist persona, Aoede, and I created all of this light, uplifting, happy, positive, feel-good stuff. And that's not a problem. I'm not saying that that was an issue. I discovered that, music and art were my lifeline. But what I did discover is that it doesn't go far enough. And then I had a yearning to be part of something bigger than myself. And that's that realization to give back. And in my case, the need to write my story, to encourage and inspire others, my need to partner with organizations that I, came across, like the kids dealing with the same disease that I have called Cure JM. All of these ways were realizations that I can see the gift in the curse, which is something I never could have done if I was just expressively, doing my music.
The gift and the curse. Wow, that's a pretty powerful little phrase right there. So, and somebody else who maybe doesn't see the gift and the curse, who hears you, will see that. Maybe you'll speed up the process. I wanted to ask you about the name Aoede. What does that mean? Where does that come from?
So Aoede means song in Greek mythology, and she was the first muse. And I chose that name to remind myself to be inspired and to continually inspire. The wild thing is I chose it in 2006. And this was all before my onset of illness. So the theme of Muse actually became a huge part of my life, which is really interesting, right? Because both creatively, I would incorporate the Muse into my musical stories and, how I was presenting myself as a brand. But then I became a muse to others, and helping them. So it's amazing, how that choice has carried out in my journey.
Well, you're also inspiring others just to be themselves and to do what they feel is best and right for themselves, because you've got organizations out there that tell you how to perform, how to write a song, how to look and everything, and that could be so frustrating. This is not a cookie cutter world.
Correct, right? Because I am not a cookie cutter artist. When my dreams changed, rather than letting them die, I said, okay, I can't perform live, or I can't tour. All the things that I could no longer do, I didn't dwell on that. I said, what can I still do? And, what is going to bring me that joy? Because that's what it is about for me, is being able to find and live in my place of joy. So for people who may not feel that they have an artistic bone in their body, that to me is also, a life lesson, which is that you can get in touch with your own inner artist. It's not necessarily about, you have to go out and paint or write a poem or write music.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that. It's that if you can find something that brings you that joy, it may mean that you don't have to focus, on the darkness that you're going through.
Oh, my gosh. Absolutely. Rob and I one time had a debate with somebody, one of our listeners. We were saying you can be anything you want to be. And a listener called up and said, why would you tell people that? That's not true. You cannot be an astronaut if you're not cut out to be. You cannot be a star football player if you're not cut out to be. And so then I thought about it, and like 2 days later, I had a better comeback, and then I don't know where the guy went. But I felt like the thing I wanted to say, if I could turn back the clock, was just because you can't make money at it doesn't mean you can't be it. I know a lot of people who are singers who don't earn a penny, but they love singing, and even if it's in the shower, you're still a singer.
Exactly. It's the joy of doing what you're doing. It isn't about saying, oh, I'm going to make a livelihood and make my income from it necessarily.
Right.
It's more, like I say it, for me, it's more about keeping the dream alive. And that's the lesson, in that, which is, I had a conversation with somebody who also had the same disease, who could no longer teach. I think he was a pilot. And so when he could no longer be a pilot, he found ways years later to do flight simulation instruction, because he could still do that and support his dream.
I even crashed.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I crashed in the simulator. I'd be a horrible pilot. I can't even fly a simulator.
I understand, but I'm just saying, for somebody who loves it and doesn't want to give it up,
absolutely,
there are ways, and that's what I'm here to kind of share, is to say, again, I'm not saying this is easy, but I am going to say that, your attitude, it's a choice. We don't have control over the things that are thrown at us. But we have control how we act and react to everything.
One of the saddest things, we do the news here, obviously. We're a news station. And one of the saddest things is when we have to report a young person who has committed suicide. Mm-hmm. And I wish they could see the light in the darkness. Because at that moment that they decide to make that horrible decision, the darkness is overwhelming, and they don't believe there's a light anywhere. And a story like yours, a book like yours, a conversation like we're having, there is light. There's always light. So I appreciate you're getting such great reviews. By the way, I was looking at Amazon. You've got 28 people who all gave you 5 stars. 28 people. They're all saying things like, "It's put me in tears. You gave me hope." It's a story they could relate to. This your story is their story. Mm-hmm. Lisa, I think you've hit a chord with a lot of people.
Thank you. And, that is also such a reward, is hearing from people, whether it's through reviews or messages. It's understanding that something is making a connection. That's, that makes it all worthwhile.
And we're told you do different voices, and not just the physical voices, but the voices of writing the book, of writing the plays, of writing the songs. What kind of physical voices do you do?
Well, mostly I'm my Aoede voice, meaning that I voice my main character, who's the Greek Muse, and she's in a fantasy world. But mostly I'm focused on the creating aspect of that, and then allow other players, to carry that out for me. I do voiceover as well as a voiceover artist. But yeah, right now I'm focused on creating for others to do that.
The book, again, is called A Light in the Darkness, and Lisa Sniderman is the author. And if you're a follower of music, you might know her as Aoede, A-O-E-D-E, for those who don't know, because I didn't know. I never heard that word before. And that's important because that's your website, right? Aoedemuse.com, is that right?
It is, and also it is a lightinthedarkness.info.
Okay, a lightinthedarkness.info. Okay, that's good to know.
Yes. Yeah.
When people are struggling with chronic illnesses and things that just don't see for them to be going right in their own world, how do you, or what do you say to them so they won't give up?
Well, I think a lot of the messages are that the life lessons can help. So I share life lessons rather than try to give them one formula. It's not a cookbook, right? Mm-hmm. So I basically would share that live in your place of joy, share your story, never stop dreaming, keep shining your light, choose hope and possibility, don't give up on your dreams. I would share it in that way, to remind them that whatever they're doing and wherever they are, they're enough, and who they are is enough.
I think a book or an album or any completed project is a dream come true, and it seems like you're living your dream. What's next for you? What's on your plate in the future? Maybe just 1 year from now.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
I just, like I said, have a collaboration with over 50 artists, and we just had an event where I produced a live streamed performance and also shared 45 recorded conversations with artists, musicians, and authors from around the world. And those are actually up on my website through the end of the year. And then I'm gonna look at taking footage and creating a documentary of Lights in the Darkness. And then the next thing is also I want to record a song so that people that you were saying that might be in a place where they're, contemplating their own lives and in bouts of depression, etc., might have something as a positive thing, to listen to, called Keep Shining. So I want to do that as a collaboration with the group, and other projects related.
It's all positive, Lisa. Again, I see you as a healer, and I think you've found a way to take the artist part of yourself and enable that to express what needs to be expressed so that other people can be healed from your words and from your things you're expressing. It's not just words always. Lisa, thank you. Congratulations on the success of the book. Again, the website is aoedemuse.com, AOEDEMUSE.com. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just want to tell everybody, keep shining your light.
Ah, good way to end it. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. President Trump's meeting with Senate Republicans at the White House this morning.